Team Fortress 2 is a beloved game that we have been playing for over 20 years now. But did you know that we used to have a yearly animation celebration to celebrate the source filmmaker community as well as the rest of the animation community that was on TF2? And it was called the Saxxys. The Saxxy Award was a yearly contest where TF2 players could submit their very own and self-made Team Fortress 2 themed animations that they had made on Source Filmmaker. Source Filmmaker is a program that Valve had released for the open public. As I can read from the wiki right now, Source Filmmaker is a tool for animating, editing, and rendering 3D animated videos using assets from games which use the Source engine, such as sounds, models, and backdrops. SFM also allows for the creation of still images, art, and posters. SFM contains 3 different user interfaces and has a work camera for previewing an active scene. After its initial release in 2012, the TF2 community went insane with it and made so many great animations with it, none of which I really care to go and look at myself because I don't really care about the TF2 community and what happens to it. But that's besides the point now, because the Saxxy Awards have been cancelled. You may be wondering, why was it cancelled in the first place? What could have possibly happened to lead such a big company that we all love so much as Valve to come to the decision of cancelling such a beautiful moment of community awareness as was the Saxxy for the TF2 animation community? Well, look no further than the big workshop once again. After the glorious success that was the Saxxy Awards of 2017, Valve decided to invite one of the winning teams to be flown out to take a tour of the Valve offices. But little did Eric Smith know, he was actually inviting on board a horde of filthy evil criminals. Because during the tour, a couple of the animators actually went into the bathroom. Not just to go number 1 or number 2 or even hell number 3, but yes, to do the deeds. And by the deeds, I mean smoking the devil's lettuce. Multiple members of the big workshop that were on the team went into the bathroom to commit heinous crimes against humanity on purpose, specifically so that Valve would no longer trust us and that we would have to rely on them to create content for the game forever and ever. This was a move that they had pre-planned and thought ahead of time. Now, while my evidence for this is, well, let's just say lacking, I assure you that I do have evidence listed in the description in the form of deleted Twitter threads that hopefully will be archived at some point in the future, but I simply can't do that myself because I just don't know how. You may be wondering, what exactly is it that they went and did in that bathroom that one day? Well, what I'm about to say might just shock some of the youngest of you, so cover your ears. That day, multiple members of the workshop went into the bathroom along with strippers and prostitutes and other sex workers alike. They started to inject strange needles into their arms, leading some of us to think that they may have also been taking heroin, which is really bad if you didn't know about it. Other witnesses have said that they have witnessed some of the workshoppers snorting lines of cocaine from the toilet seats. Another important key eyewitness has said that they saw one of the workshoppers do fentanyl. If you do not know, currently America is going through a fentanyl crisis. Or at least that's what the news says. I don't really believe in that kind of stuff myself, but from what I've read, fentanyl is actually a pretty dangerous chemical that when ingested directly in any means whatsoever will just kill you. Another anonymous source has come forth to me and told me that they saw them taking whippets as well. Coming out of the bathroom, they were all drunk, lousy, and just acting so odd. Another key eyewitness has come forth and told us that during their time in the bathroom smoking marijuana, I believe it is said, that they had begun a sort of illegal gambling ring, and as well as having installed a cockfighting ring. No, not for penile, but for indeed chickens in hens to fight in, which as you know is an illegal practice within the Valve HQ offices. It should be well known that Valve has a very long and studied history with cockfighting. As fans of Team Fortress 2, we all know how the developers came up with the idea. The first lead developers of Team Fortress 2 were massive cockfighters all throughout the world, and they brought their practices with them into the office, setting up rings where chickens would fight at Gaben's office. The company's CEO was so happy about the cockfighting happening that he just made it a current practice, where basically all the devs and everyone else working there just had to partake in the cockfighting rings. The way Team Fortress 2 was developed was when a developer first found out that, in fact, the cocks could fly. This served as the key inspiration for Soldier's rocket jump. And eventually, with enough experimentation, the team had conceptualized the whole game with a full rooster of characters to pick from. They had done tests where they had put explosives beneath the chickens to see how far they could go, thus being the inspiration for the Demo Man's sticky jump. One day they had the genius idea of overdosing a chicken on caffeine and steroids to make it run faster, and that's where the Scout originally came from. TF2 is a long, strange, and very studied piece of history in game development like no other before, due to the cockfighting rings and how they affected the game development. However, during the large, well-known event known as Chicken Gate, people rebelled against Valve's cockfighting policies. Major news sources were claiming that cockfighting wasn't fun or anything cool, and that it was actually illegal and harmful to the chickens. Well, I personally stand for cockfighting and think that it is a great practice and was a formidable thing that Valve managed to do to get their creative juices flowing to make our favorite game ever. And I think all these cock sacrifices were well worth it for me to be able to play as a friendly Hoovie with a sandwich. At the end of the day, this woke Twitter mob who doesn't want us to harm chickens for some reason won, despite the fact that KFC is a well-known and thriving restaurant chain that very much harms a bunch of chickens for you to eat them. And it is because of this very long and studied history of cockfighting rings at Valve that the move of installing a cockfighting ring in the Valve HQ office's bathrooms was seen as very controversial and not completely hated by everyone at Valve, because they kind of do like it. It kind of was useful. This is how they made their career. Renowned Valve employees such as Samantha Blingo was seen posting on Twitter reminiscing about the good old days of cockfighting rings being a standard practice at Valve, and how this entire culture of wokeism has ruined the gaming landscape forever. So if anything, the cockfighting rings could have actually been seen as a loving and understanding gesture. Now, plenty of people will come and say that smoking, doing shots, snorting cocaine, doing crack, injecting heroin, doing fentanyl, and whippets is not such a big deal, especially once you have created the perfect environment for such a thing by bringing sex workers and creating an illegal gambling site. On the surface, this all sounds like pretty normal behavior that even I myself have done in the past, except it has been extended to Valve's HQ office bathrooms. But still, I know my enemies at the workshop, and I know how some of them will come on this video and say that it in fact might make me lame for being somewhat of a knock towards the entire culture surrounding it. But there is a problem with smoking weed in bathrooms, because all the employees at Valve that went into the bathroom afterward could smell the weed. And if you know anything about TF2's history after Meet Your Match, you will know that Valve has suddenly received a huge problem where all the employees were addicted to weed. They were having weed overdoses, and they just couldn't stop themselves from smoking that devil's lettuce that made them so sleepy and inebriated that they could no longer work or develop the game or program or do anything on Hammer. Why do you think that we have not received a major update in almost 20 years? It is because all the employees have been high as fuck and not been able to do anything beyond sit there and smoke all day long at their offices. It is well known that Valve just simply lets their employees do whatever they want whenever they please. So how do we know that this freedom doesn't extend to just sitting there and smoking weed at the office all day long? Now, some of you don't seem to take my warning seriously, but when I say that the weed smoking incident has been the leading cause of TF2's development being on a downfall for the last 26 years, I mean it with my whole chest. And I've got the whole list of evidence that just proves it all, and eyewitnesses and people who've come up to me to tell me about it. But even worse than that, the weed smoking incident is not the only incident that has been the leading cause of TF2's development being on a downfall for the last 27 years. In fact, there's been another incident that happened at Valve's offices that day in the same bathroom. And I'm of course referring to the one time that a workshopper didn't wash their hands successfully. The story goes that one of the workshoppers actually went into the same bathrooms to try and take a piss and only came out of it 10 seconds later. So now if we do all the calculations necessary to understand this entire dilemma, we can put together that the workshopper has not washed their hands and possibly has touched the other hands of the developers, such as Aaron Blimp, one of the lead developers of the game, with his pee-pee poo-poo hands. And that is yet again another prime example of why workshoppers simply cannot be trusted. And it is because of individuals like them that Valve refuses to trust the greater TF2 community. Now, I was Big Boy James, and if you like my video and my official news reporting, please consider subscribing. My next video will be on why Vampiro gives me such massive boners.